You're listening to Hot Cup of Code, the podcast where two Black women in tech brew up conversations about code, career, and culture.
We're talking about breaking barriers, breaking code, and everything in between.
From debugging your first app to navigating big tech, we're here to percolate ideas and stir up inspiration.
So grab your favorite mug, get cozy, and let's dive into the blend of tech and culture.
Hey everyone, my name is Zea Whitfield. I also go by Z. I'm a software engineer and developer advocate.
And I am Kat Goncalves, and I am also a software engineer. Welcome back to the podcast, our very first episode of 2025.
And happy Black History Month.
Absolutely. Happy Black History Month, Z. We owe so much of who we are as engineers to our mentors. Many of them are Black engineers, but specifically we owe the pathways that we walk into the Black technologists that have come before us. We appreciate you.
100% appreciate you all. Thank you to all of our mentors. And also thank you to you, our listeners, and all of you that are paving the way for the Black technologists that are coming behind you.
Absolutely. And I think really keeping up with some of the conversations that Z and I have been having, we really have an episode that we feel is super important and central to the Black tech community specifically.
But before we dive into this conversation, I want to know what you've been sipping on.
Oh, yeah, I have just a classic. I've got a Dunkin' iced coffee. What are you drinking, Z?
Okay, so I am drinking. There's nothing here. I'm showing my cup, but there's no branding on it. It is a chai latte from my new local coffee shop.
Oh, amazing. Oh, well, and that's part of the little updates because, obviously we released a New Year's Eve episode and we've had quite a lot kind of between now and then. So we both have some life updates and things that we want to share. We obviously took a little break for the holidays and we actually recorded an episode that we wanted to release in early January. And it just didn't turn out the way that we wanted to. It felt just like the tone of it was so different. And it didn't really have some of that same zest that we've really loved about the podcast. And we wanted to re-record it. And life has been lifing all over us.
Yes. Let's be clear. That episode was Floppiana.
Like we're so Floppiana. I didn't want to say it. I wanted to be positive. But we should not have. I don't know what we should have done. But
yeah.
It flopped.
It wasn't our best work, and we want to bring quality content to our audience and our community. So, after that, life happened.
Totally.
So, my dad had a health issue, so that took me off the grid for a little while. But he's doing fine. So, everyone, don't be worried. Dad's doing good. But I also had to move. And I moved out of state. I'm in a new city. But moving is hard, y'all. I don't know what I was thinking. It was probably overall a 2-month process to really get everything packed up, planned, like finding the place, and then just moving out of state.
Yeah.
There were challenges there that I did not anticipate. My first apartment I lived in for 6 years. And then the apartment that I moved from, I lived in for over 3 years. So I was not very good at moving, and I have amassed so much stuff. I need to stop shopping.
It's wild when you move to a new apartment. It just is like empty and full of promise. And as soon as you move, you realize, wait, where did all this stuff come from?
Where did it come from? So what about you, Kat? What have you been up to?
Well, I have some very exciting news that I'm very happy about. I actually just accepted a job offer for a full stack engineering position, and I am so excited about it. That's the first half of the news. And then the second half of the news is I will actually be relocating for this position. And so Z and I will actually be in the same city, which I'm so excited about. And, I this is like a little bit of my iced coffee as a nod to Boston. I'm originally from Boston. I live in Boston now, and I am really, really looking forward to what is to come from a lot of these changes.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank
I'm
you.
so proud of you. You've been working really, really hard, and you are now getting to reap the benefits, and there's no one more deserving.
Thank you, Z. Yeah, and honestly, Z has been such a huge support, and I feel like the two of us have leaned on each other, not just in the last few months, but especially in the last few months. And even just with your move and with everything that's been happening, it's been so great to be able to have not just each other, but also this podcast. And even just some of our ideas, I feel like we cycle through ideas because we have so many things that we want to do. And so it is a balance to try to stay topical and to try to keep up with the amount of things that we know that people in our community want. And that's also part of why we didn't revisit the podcast. We both had so much, but then the political climate, it just, what was happening in the world didn't feel appropriate for the levity of the original episode that we had planned. So in a way, the break maybe was kind of positive for both of us. And I think now we're able to kind of take a step back and look more objectively at what is going on.
Yeah. And we definitely want to give you guys updates on the podcast for sure. But I think we need to talk about what's going on first, just a little bit. January was a wild ride. I feel like there was something new happening every single day as far as like the political climate in general, but even just within tech. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I think it's no secret that tech layoffs and feelings of instability in the tech industry have been a real staple of almost all of 2024 and a huge chunk of 2023. And, we obviously are always going to want to make content that feels topical to our community specifically, whether that is women of color, people of color, and I should be even more specific to say Black women and people of color.
Yeah.
Our career transitioners, folks that have come to tech from non-traditional pathways, people with different, professional and educational backgrounds. And it has been hard to see the way that some of the changing dynamics in tech have really specifically impacted this community. And, there's so much going on about it that we always want to be encouraging people that are on the job search, but then having realistic conversations about what is happening.
Yeah, we have all been hearing the term DEI a lot in the past few weeks. And so I think before we dig into our thoughts, we want to make sure that we're clear about the definition of DEI, how we're going to be using it as part of this conversation on this episode and beyond.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and we've talked about this a lot, right? That I think if you were to turn on the news or be on social media, you might see DEI used in a negative light or as a dog whistle when kind of just sounds like they want to say Black.
Yeah, that's what they want to say.
Yeah. And realistically, DEI is an acronym that literally stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is such a wide variety of initiatives and programs within a company that it's almost laughable to use that acronym in any of the contexts that we're seeing if you were to turn on the news or be on social media and see it.
Right. DEI can mean making sure that there's a room in an office for nursing mothers. It can mean that there are ramps for wheelchair users. Yeah. So I think that this focus on DEI right now is really a fear-mongering tactic. I guess maybe just narrowing the scope in tech, right? Yeah. I think that it's being used to elicit an emotional response from all of us that are being impacted by the decisions that companies are making that are impacting all of us individual contributors.
Totally. And I believe, and I feel we both do believe that diversity is a positive thing, equity is a positive thing, right? I think what's hard is when you look at those words individually, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the opposites to me are all negative things. They're all things that feel really antithetical to who I am and what I believe in. Like, I don't want to be in places that are monolithic. I don't want to be in places that aren't inclusive. I don't want to be in places that are not equitable. And it feels like an effort to place blame for what I'm not always 100% sure, but it feels like an effort to place blame because there's so much uncertainty in the tech market right now. And it doesn't feel very based in reality. It doesn't feel very based in what is actually happening in tech or what it actually means to be a Black person or a person of color in a corporate space.
So, what are the facts? Well, DEI did not have the negative impact that is being claimed. So I did some research and found a report, the NAACP Black Tech Ecosystem Report. So from 2014 to 2021, the tech industry produced only a 1% increase in Black representation. So overall, all of these programs that were put in place for diversity, equity, and inclusion didn't really move the needle on getting more Black people in tech.
And it's not to say that they were not effective. I think sometimes this is like an overrepresentation issue, right? Like, we hear about DEI efforts so much. And so the perception is that they take up this huge amount of a corporation or a company's efforts. And I'm sure that they do take some, but we're not seeing like double-digit increases. We're seeing marginal increases that do represent continued and applied effort, but the amount of attention that it is getting and the amount of times that I am hearing the acronym DEI doesn't even represent the actual amount that it is being implemented.
Right. And it's not just that there's a lot of chats about DEI. It's also the way that it's being spoken about. And there's this idea that people that are unqualified are being hired. People are replacing qualified candidates. And yeah, the data is just not showing that. And anecdotally, we all have experienced the tech hiring process. There's not really a great way to get through a technical interview without knowing what you're doing.
Exactly. It is not a process that you can just cheat your way through. It's not a process where you can sneakily hide your skills. And it's certainly not a process that is made easier for you if you are from a minority group, whether that be as a veteran, as a person of color, as a woman, as any of these groups that we see represented and made included and allowed more room to be at the table because of DEI efforts. And, adding to some of your statistics, the Magnificent Seven, so some of the biggest tech companies in the world, have actually seen some of their highest growth. And I believe that they're all projected to have an overall growth of about 18% this year, which is an unbelievable number. So if all of these companies have committed to and gone through DEI efforts, how is it that that can be so negative and yet these companies are growing at such a beneficial rate? And this is why we have to look at what we're hearing with a rational mind.
And going on that thread about listening to what we're hearing with a rational mind, there's a lot of fear about AI taking over tech jobs.
Yeah.
2025, we are already seeing that tech hiring is picking up. So
Absolutely.
we're not seeing the rates that we saw it in, say, 2021. However, the jobs are there for us. And the companies, as a result of all of this growth that they're experiencing, they are hiring.
You're right, Z, that tech hiring is picking up. And I think we have to rewind a little bit about why that's happening now. Some of the first people to be laid off when we started to see layoffs happening in tech were people in recruitment. They were people in some of that, especially early talent roles. And those are positions that have been refilled. And now we're seeing this effort in recruitment, this effort in hiring, especially. And even just speaking from my experience, it is so frustrating to spend so much time preparing and to stay sharp on your skills and to just feel like the doors are slamming in your face in the job market. And so I understand how somebody could become angry, having that experience over and over again. But that is not the fault of diversity efforts. That's not the fault of inclusion. It's not the fault of equity. At the end of the day, having an accessible ramp in your office is not the reason that you're not being hired. It's because there was not a recruitment pipeline for you. And,
Right.
I there were some roles that I wanted so badly and I didn't get them. And at the end of the day, I am now, going to be working in a company that I feel so passionately about, in an industry that I could not be more excited to dip my toe into, in a role that feels absolutely perfect for me. And so in a way, I think we do have to look into the long run and have a little bit of that sort of emotional intelligence within ourselves to be able to acknowledge that just because we don't get something that we want doesn't mean that someone took it from us.
Right. Yeah, I think I have had some similar experiences to you in 2024. I have received offers that were rescinded because of restructuring and lack of budget. So they're closing roles and opportunities. I've also gone through entire interview pipelines, made it to the end, only to get ghosted without any feedback.
Yeah.
It has been a frustrating year. But the only thing that's productive is taking that frustration and putting it towards working harder and continuing on the journey. With that fear mongering, and we're talking about using DEI as a dog whistle and telling the world really that folks of certain backgrounds are unqualified. If you start internalizing that, you're going to find yourself being hesitant to still go for positions. And the positions are opening up now.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's talk about resilience. Like, what can we do to make sure that we are taking advantage of this hiring spike?
Yeah, and honestly, I think that the starting point there, even just let's objectively look at what the market is doing and how we represent our skills. The truth is that criticisms of DEI are not a majority opinion. I have found in my experience working with tech for years and many years of networking and many years of developing mentorship relationships across multiple industries that folks are excited to meet people from different backgrounds, whether it be cultural or educational, whether it be folks of different ages, whether it be folks that have different lived experiences, especially in tech, because that is such a valuable asset to have. And so when you are networking, start there by remembering that anything that's different about you can be brought to any role that you have as a positive thing. And people are excited to meet you and they're excited to work with you. So it's hard to escape the criticism of DEI because it's all over the news and it's just the hot button issue of the moment. But those feelings are not representing tech as a whole, I don't feel.
No, I don't feel that it represents tech as a whole either. And I also want to point out that a lot of where we are seeing these criticisms of DEI is in media, and that's on the news, that's on the internet. But when you're going to those networking events, no one is focused on the fact that you look different or that you have a different educational background. Everyone's there to do what we all love, which is play around with cool tech. Yeah, so I think that we've said all that we need to say on DEI for this episode. Moving forward, we'll only be talking about DEI when it comes to the initiatives that companies are taking to make their environments and products more inclusive and more representative of the people that exist in the world.
Absolutely, right? It is a hot button term that is being taken over, and it feels like it's a tool of distraction and a tool to give the perception of exclusion that is not factually based, right? We're definitely more fact-driven people, and diversity has been a net positive for tech. And so we just wanted to address some of our thoughts on the topic and really provide that reframe.
Yes, of course. And with this podcast and with the community that we're trying to build, we want to connect with all technologists, but we're specifically reaching out to folks who are career transitioners or underrepresented in tech. And we want to make sure that you're not distracted by these buzzwords and these sort of hot topics that you might see on social media.
Right. And the real question in all of this is, how does this impact hiring? How does this impact your job search? How does this impact networking? And I don't know, I think we would agree that it shouldn't, right? It doesn't impact it. You should be doing all of the same things you typically would. And, what are some things that you would continue to suggest for someone who's actively looking for a new role, trying to network, or out in the market right now?
Yeah. In 2025, the things that you should be doing, the actions that you should be taking for your job hunt are no different than they were 5 years ago. So yes, you should be networking and you should be connecting with other technologists. You should be more visible with your skills and making sure that other people in tech know who you are and what you do. And of course, you need to stay sharp on those technical skills, the relevant ones for the role that you're looking for.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, with that being said, what are you supposed to do when you're networking or going to networking events?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's such a great starting place, right? So like maybe step one is anticipate that you are going to be welcomed with open arms in any space that you join, because your technical skill deserves that. You deserve to allow yourself to feel welcomed, and you will be. And even just being a part of our community, like Zea and I really, really value that. And we've been so lucky to cultivate an incredible community of technologists around us, that if you are feeling like you're not finding those places, we will help you. And we have a future episode, or probably more than one, where we will talk even more about that.
Definitely. And as you're going up to these networking events, we want to make sure that when you're finding those opportunities, that you're ready to interview. So the next part of that is staying sharp on your skills and following the market trends for your locale.
Stay ready.
Stay ready. The opportunities will come at you fast.
Yeah.
I do believe that remote hiring is all but dead. So we are looking at hybrid or fully in-office roles. So that might be your opportunity to see what's in your area and making sure that you are connecting with recruiters and engineers in those companies, but also making sure that you are ready to interview.
Absolutely. Yeah. You want to make sure that you're ready to go. And I think all of this kind of is underscored by almost like a level of visibility, right? Like be seen at events, be interacting with people. This is a great opportunity. And we'll talk more about this, like refresh your LinkedIn, your personal brand, even just make a couple of tweaks on your resume so that you're approaching all of these things with some fresh excitement. But also, closed mouths don't get fed, right? Reach out, be the person to send the first message or the follow-up. Be sending thank yous, right? Be extending more thoughtfulness in your network than you typically would, because if there was ever a time that you want someone to be thinking about you, the moment is now.
Yeah. And I'd like to also mention, as we're seeing a lot of hiring uncertainty and instability within engineering, all of us in tech are facing some of the same uncertainty. So make it easy for the recruiters. The recruiters are also facing layoffs, and they're also getting applications and resumes that are AI bots. If you are visible and communicative, that makes their job so much easier. They want to vet and hire qualified candidates. So if you are making it easier for them by reaching out to them and proving that you are a human being who actually does have those skills, and if those skills are documented all over the place, you have a really, really great shot of getting into that hiring pipeline. And if you stay ready, then you will pass that interview. Stay ready. Because we don't want to get into the interview and then bomb.
No, and I also, you really highlighted something, and you really reminded me of something that's very important, which is that we are in a job market where everyone that's interviewing knows how to code. Every single person, right?
Yeah.
And you have something unique about you, unique about your personality and your style. That is what's going to set you apart. And so, I'm not saying that you should get into like zany tactics to show your personality, but this is why in-person networking specifically is the key that opens doors, because there is no replacement for someone standing in front of you and thinking, I really like this person. I could see myself working with them, and I want to make sure I support them as much as I can at my company. And I can relate to that experience. So as much as, maybe there's a hesitancy to be networking in person, the work is in person and the networking should be too.
Yeah. And I really like what you were saying about focusing on your individuality. What's for you is for you. So you're not going to get every role. Not every role is going to be a great fit for you. And you're really just trying to connect with people who are seeing your strengths outside of your technical ability, because we all have that technical ability. So what else do you bring to the table that's going to be really valuable to that particular company? And the only way you're going to find out is if you are putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And genuinely, I've had to do this several times in my job search. Take a look at what it is that you're doing. Are you engaging with code and writing code every single day? Are you reading technically? Are you flashcarding? Are you doing mock technical interviews? And, your engineering cousins are here to say, you have to do it, right? Those are not negotiable in this job market. And at the end of the day, that level of consistency and commitment could never be boiled down to just DEI used in the pejorative.
Absolutely. I think the person that's going to be reaching out and communicating with updates as they're going through the interview process, that's probably the person who's going to be on top of their tickets. They're going to be saying, hey, I've got this blocker and I need this time to sync up with a peer, or I need some time to research, or whatever the case is. And they're going to get that ticket out on time. I believe in that person. That person's not just a DEI hire. That person is a very good engineer and an asset to the team.
Yeah. And like, even, I won't shout out specific names because I'm not sure if they would be comfortable with me sharing these things. We have several people in our network that are taking these unique and creative approaches to making themselves visible. There's someone in me and Zea's network who is keeping a public tech journal of everything that they're doing in tech every single week. Zea and I have someone in our network who is posting videos multiple times a week of them live coding and talking about how they're talking through problems. We have folks who are posting about the projects that they're working on, how they're tweaking some of their capstone projects. Ultimately, those are actions that are going to make those individuals stand out, so that when someone meets with them, they know that they have the ability to commit and have this consistency and this visibility and this communication. So at the end of the day, assume that everyone knows how to code and try to develop those skills that surround that and really support you to make you a holistic candidate.
Absolutely. We also have someone in our network who had this incredible tech blog. They still do have it. But they've been writing pretty regularly, and they just started their first tech job as a software engineer. So
amazing.
Hiring is here, and there's hiring for early career talent. So you have to be putting in the work
Definitely.
in order to get these opportunities.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, Zea and I have worked with so many upcoming engineers and so many early career engineers. Every single person has within them these amazing little gems that make them unique. And we're not saying to copy exactly what these folks are doing, but we're just trying to highlight that it's important for you to find how to highlight your specific special skills. And there's so many ways to do that. For me, going to conferences was really helpful because I love in person and I really do great with networking in person. But I could never like live code on the internet. Like that intimidates me so much. Even though I love doing coding challenges, like even in a Zoom call with students, I do it all the time. So it's about finding what that is for you. We have tons and tons of content planned aimed at helping you to refine what that is and how to represent that.
Yeah, I think just for us, pushing ourselves and trying to be more visible resulted in this podcast. So sometimes it might mean pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit and finding that happy medium. It's going to be something that feels uncomfortable in the beginning. So you just have to give it a shot and see what sticks.
Oh my God, you're so right. Our podcast is our version of it. I didn't even think about that.
We're doing it too.
Yeah, but it's also, this is such a fun and creative outlet and we have enjoyed it so much, but that's also kind of what we are into, right? Like we want to have a side project that makes tech feel like tangible and fun because we enjoy it at that level. And, you know, maybe for you, it's not a podcast. Maybe for you, it's not a live tech journal, but you have to find that and highlight it.
Yeah. So speaking of our podcast, we want to make sure that moving forward in 2025, we're a little bit more consistent, but we also want to expand on and emphasize that community aspect. So we have built a Hot Cup of Code Discord server that we would love to have you all join.
It's so exciting. Zea and I actually will meet in there pretty regularly. And I feel like that's like kind of the fun is like kind of drop in and see what we're up to. But beyond that, we are really feeling a more tangible need to connect one-on-one and connect directly. And we have so many ideas for what we could do in that community and the way that we could grow that community. And so we will have a link to our Discord in the show notes. We want to see you there. We want to meet you there. And we also want that to be a place where we maybe host live events in the future.
Yeah. So let us know what kind of live events you want from us. We have a whole bunch of ideas. We want to do body doubling. Body doubling has been so impactful for both Kat and I, just working together and making sure that we're staying consistent in our studying. And so we love body doubling. Would love to share that with our community. Live coding sessions. Like Kat said, I don't know that either one of us wants to record ourselves live coding, but we love coding together.
For you, we would do it. And even like live coaching, before I transitioned into tech, I worked in people management. And so I feel really passionate about helping people to grow some of their professional skills, whether it's helping folks with interviews or writing their personal statements or resume writing. Like that's definitely going to be a space where we are engaging with folks live. Even if it's just like hey, I'm studying, let's hang out in a body doubling chat.
Yeah. And of course, this wouldn't be Hot Cup of Code if we didn't have a coffee and code session.
You know it.
We would love to know what kind of live events you'd like in the Discord server. But along with that, since we want to engage more directly with the community, and we both clearly have a lot of life changes, we are going to move to an every other week podcast episode release schedule.
Yeah. Ultimately, we have so many ideas and we have so many things that we want to get out into the world. And it's like a mix between we want to be able to balance some of our own responsibilities outside of the podcast, but also we want to make sure that everything that we're releasing is up to our standard, which is admittedly high.
A little bit.
And we want to make sure that we are able to work in a sustainable way and, have the time to really dive as deep as we want into some of these topics.
And we have seen your comments on networking.
Yeah.
We are planning an episode to talk at length about networking.
Yeah.
So we're super excited to bring that to you as a podcast episode. And
it's been like the number one thing that people are asking for, which it honestly has been surprising to me. But I get it. Like, networking is one of those things that you just have to jump in and listen. Zea and we've done so much of it. Even if we took all of 2024 and used that alone, we would have endless content to tell you about networking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm the introvert, Kat's the extrovert. So we will talk about networking from all of the perspectives in all of the contexts.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really excited to bring that to you all. But as far as future episodes go, we do want to go back to bringing more technical episodes and some career episodes. So let us know what you want to see. We have a whole year of content to build out.
Yeah. And we, obviously we're both kind of doubling down on Java. And so we'll probably continue there with Java. But if there are any other technologies that you want to explore or any other concepts that you're wanting us to expand on, even if it means a deeper dive into something technically that we've already discussed, you know where to find us. I think ultimately, I feel like this was such a good chat. Like, first of all, Zea and I talk all the time, so it just felt like we were been craving a podcast recording. So this just feels so good in full circle.
Yeah. Happy to be back. I hope your 2025 is starting off well, even with all of the chaos in the world.
For sure.
Want to make sure that you all are doing well, taking care of yourselves, and ready to learn. We've got jobs to get. We've got technology to play around with.
Listen, this code is piping hot. So as always, you can find us on TikTok and Instagram. Our email is hotcupofcode.show@gmail.com. If you have any questions, any comments, find us on Discord. That link is going to be in the show notes. And if you are thinking, oh my gosh, I love these ladies, I want to buy them a coffee, the link to do that will also be in the show notes.
Yeah, and don't forget, if you are listening to us and you like this episode, please give us a review. Give us that 5-star.
Yes,
review.
Write us a compliment. We love them. Thanks so much. And thanks for having a hot cup of code with us.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.